brainstorming and pitching ideas is the funnest part of the creative process, we decided to skip the boring part of actually making stuff and just do the fun part. I'm your host, Tom Walma.
I'm Cam Honeyegger.
I'm Nolan Johncock.
I'm Jared Hibbs.
And this is Creativity Wasted. I like green tech, like solar panels and Tesla stuff. I saw a thing about a riding lawnmower that was electric and things like that, like tractors and lawnmowers and stuff. There's a lot of them still run on like diesel fuel that they haven't been electrified very, very well yet. And I had the idea that for tractors specifically, farms tend to be in like wide open areas with lots of wind. Couldn't you like use the power of like a sail, like a sailboat sail, to push it down the field to farm shit? Like a wind-powered tractor.
I like that, yeah.
So I like to accept the problem is people have tried this before to have like sails on land vehicles. And the main problem you run into, especially if you're trying to like dig up the ground, is that the ground is not a medium that likes to be manipulated in any way. Where water, you can cut through it like butter. It's what it's supposed to do. It gets out of your way. So any force moving you forward will let you move it forward. But with dirt, you're just going to... You need a lot of force to tilt.
You have to have big
and the
sails.
sail's not going to produce that.
What if I kind of like the idea of like electric tractors though. That'd be pretty nifty. But like incorporate wind power with a turbine to power your electric tractors.
I was just going to say that.
Well, so
wind turbines up on the farm, have them charge some batteries, stick the batteries in your tractor.
yeah, I was gonna get there, but so my thought is when you do it that way, when you take the wind power and put it into the battery, there's a loss, like an energy loss, and then there's another energy loss taking it out of the battery and putting that into your vehicle to spin the wheels and the machinery or whatever. And plus I don't know how big the battery would have to be. You're pushing the extra weight of the battery. Whereas if you had the sail, you're basically taking the wind energy and just transferring it directly to the vehicle. And then the other thought, I'm not sure how farming works about like, does it matter if you're going 5 miles an hour or 1 mile an hour or 10, like if the wind is a little gusty and the speed you're moving down the field varies, maybe that doesn't matter that much.
So it doesn't matter how fast you go. It will matter if you're changing speed sporadically. Just with how deep you're going to gouge, how wide the gouge is going to be, if it's going to be in a straight line. That's just going to be affected if you're sporadically accelerating and decelerating based on the wind. Another thing with your thing about losing energy is if you're not using fuel, then you also aren't pulling that fuel, which would compensate for the battery weight. If you're operating at a loss with renewable resources, that doesn't really matter because it's a renewable resource. The wind's not going to stop. We're not going to run out of wind.
Yeah. Maybe electric tractors are feasible. I just assumed that they weren't, given that nobody's done it yet.
It's the technology's not there for it to have enough power. But I kind of think like, so are you talking like a wind powered like vehicle, or like are you thinking more like an irrigation system with a sail to it, where it kind of just like it pulls an arm that's all of your combine tines and all your stuff that does all your digging and stuff. So you'd basically be growing in circles because you'd have to have a pivot point to pull it around like on a swivel deal.
So I just had an idea that's very similar to that. It's just that instead of having a giant pivot for the whole field, you put like a wind wheel on top of the tractor that's spinning from the generating wind that will generate electricity on the tractor itself.
Okay, so
you're not using the wind power to propel it. You're using the wind power to generate electricity within the vehicle.
Yeah, that's an idea too that might work. Yeah, so it's just a loose idea, something like somebody could tinker with. I don't know if it would work. I did look like quick Googling like a sailboat, like how much horsepower equivalent does it generate? According to Google, a 30-foot sailboat, like a type of sailboat where you've got like you're on the ocean and you have like a living compartment in it, like a big 30-foot sailboat would have about 500 square feet of sail, and with a 10-mile-per-hour wind, about 7 horsepower equivalent, and 30 miles per hour, about 35 horsepower. And then a 40-foot sailboat, which is about as big as they get, would be double that. So 15 horsepower at 10-mile-an-hour wind and 70 horsepower at 30-mile-an-hour wind. And then I looked tractors. A compact tractor is like 20 to 50 horsepower. I don't know if you guys are farmers. You might. This is quick Googling. And then a bigger, like they call it a row crop tractor, is 140 to 400 horsepower. So just the sail, it wouldn't be enough to match like a row crop tractor. So it'd be a little bit maybe above the compact tractor, but not as much as a giant like industrial tractor.
So you could probably hire, you wouldn't be able to dig for planting, right?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, and my other thought was, and that would apply to whether you have the windmill on top or whether you do the sail like I was thinking. I saw a news article sometime recently that the fuel costs of like being a farmer, it can cost like $20,000. I don't know how big the field was, just in fuel costs. So I thought, well, maybe what you could do if you had some sort of like eco-friendly tractor like this that doesn't use fuel, like at the same time you're using the normal tractor on part of your field, you could use this on the other field part, because it's not with the wind might not be super reliable. But okay, so by the time your normal tractor runs out of area that it needs to farm, maybe this eco one has only done 10% of the field, but that's 10% fuel cost savings, you know?
Right.
So maybe if you were smart with it and you used it in addition to normal farming equipment, it'd be like a little bonus. Like if you got lucky and it was super windy, maybe you'd save more money in fuel costs one year versus another year.
I do want to touch on the big things holding back green energy right now. One would, of course, be the fuel lobbyists for the petrol companies that don't want green energy because that'll cut into their massive profits. The other one is battery technology. One is not there yet for us to actually be able to power most things to the rate we need to power them. And two, the best batteries are made out of lithium. And lithium is one of the rarest sourced metals on the planet. And to get it, we need to use shitloads of fresh water. So the whole process of making the battery for the green tech itself is wildly damaging to the planet. We're in a lose-lose.
Fuck.
Yeah. And also just ramping it up is super slow.
If you know anything about putting together a sail, Tom, we could find an old tractor and figure this shit out.
It was just a thought. And the other thing with like sailboats and things, you don't have to go the exact direction of the wind. I'd imagine you could control your direction pretty well, even if it was on land.
So you'd have to have like a captain.
A crow's nest on your tractor.
Yeah. Maybe you could have some high tech too to like adjust the sail to like keep the speed somewhat stable.
You have a robotic arm with some sensors at the prime angle for continuous thrust at the same velocity.
Yeah, or like release it if there's a gust so it doesn't tip over, or if you lose contact with the digging implement, it doesn't just go flying or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be a risk. Any more comments about the wind-powered tractors?
I keep thinking about Kevin Costner's ship in Waterworld and his sails and like the parachute thing, that's the sail and all that. So like that kind of sail stuff on a tractor is what I've been imagining this whole time. So I think it's fairly feasible. I'm just not sure if it's practical enough to implement, but it'd be worth dicking around with on a weekend to fucking try.
So yeah, the main problem is here, right, is that we don't have enough wind to generate the power really necessary. So we could just say fuck the world even more, create as much global warming and issues that we have more natural disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes that generate wind power, and then it should work just fine for you.
What if you put like a Tesla, made like a Tesla tractor, because the acceleration of the new Teslas, it's got to have a lot of torque, so in horsepower.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but do you want your tractors to spontaneously combust?
well,
It'll come with AI too that can self-correct and measure the wind and everything too if you put in Tesla tech in there.
anyway, the horsepower, assuming it doesn't start on fire, of the Model S is 670 to 1,020 horsepower, depending on the model. And the row crop tractors are 140 to 400 horsepower. They might have bigger ones, but I even looked at the Wikipedia page for tractors, and apparently, like, using car engines and tractors was like super common, and they had like conversion kits and stuff in the early 1900s. So that might make sense for some company to do like a conversion kit and just use their normal commuting car as a tractor instead of having to spend $500,000 on some John Deere tractor.
This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I know ethanol isn't the super fuel people think it is. It's not as good for the environment as people will say it is. It is better than petrol fuels, and most cars can run on ethanol with a software upgrade. So I think the same should probably be true for tractors. Again, I know it's not the solution, but it's better than petrol fuels. So if we could modify our tractors to just all run on ethanol, they'd be farming their own fuel.
Right.
Can you produce that ethanol like right there on the farm?
That'd actually be pretty cool.
You do need to send it somewhere for them to do the thing to it that makes it ethanol, but you could literally build those facilities anywhere. So you just build one within driving distance of a shitload of farmland, and you're effectively supplying the farms with all the fuel they need to supply the place to make the fuel, and the excess fuel goes on the market.
That might make sense too with things other than corn. Like they use like switchgrass.
Sugarcane is amazing for it.
Cane. I heard that's like way more efficient to produce.
Oh yeah, that's what the Brazilians do. They just use sugarcane. That's what their entire oil industry is based on, is sugarcane ethanol.
And cocaine.
Well, that's not what their oil exports are based on. That's what the rest of their economy is based on.
Their smog smells delicious.
Man, this smog, it's making me really hype. I don't know why.
I'm really focused today.
Do you think it would be cool to like drive by a farm and see like tractors with sails? Or would it be fun to farm if it was more like a sailboat? Like, would people volunteer?
Like Amish people?
I feel like you're just slowly walking towards slavery time. Could we get people to, volunteer, maybe, their time for food,
I guess, yeah,
work on a farm?
I guess it's not as fun as a sailboat, like a sport. Like, you're not going to be going down the field that fast.
I mean, sailboats don't really move that fast comparatively to cars. It's just that they move fast comparatively to human swim speed.
Yeah.
While we're on sails, they're actually developing a new thing called fog sails. They're using in the Andes Mountains to produce water for the tribal people that live up there. And the general concept can be used anywhere that there's a lot of fog, where you just set up a mesh. The fog rolls through in the morning, the mesh catches water vapor and produces gallons of water a day.
Yeah, they do that. I saw a documentary on Madura, which is a Spanish island.
Yeah,
and they
it'd
actually
be a great way for water reclamation that wouldn't involve tampering with the groundwater supply.
Yeah, they carved a reservoir for the water into the mountain that's on the island, so it's like elevated. So not only do they get the water,
it flows down,
and then they can pump it up and down for like energy storage.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
neat.
All sorts of cool stuff that people do. But my idea was tractors with sails.
Hey, every little bit helps us becoming carbon neutral.
Like it.
Anybody have any shows or anything you want to plug, or podcasts, whatever?
If anybody listening to this wants to come check out live stand-up comedy in Portage, Michigan, or perform in Portage, Michigan, go check out The Laughter Layover on Facebook.
Just go check out my Instagram, TikTok, Cam Honeyegger, all that stuff.
This has been a production of Planet Amp Podcast, powered by Pinecast.